With all the death.
And there's also this.
Oh, I've lost everything. I can't go on.
What's up everyone, I am the Kaiju no Kami, and today I'm going to be taking a look at Mill Creek's recent Blu-ray release of Ultraman Leo. Ultraman Taro turned off many of the adult viewers due to its childish nature, to the point that Tsuburaya decided to make its follow-up series, Ultraman Leo, more serious. Of course, the effect in doing such lost the child audiences, while adults just weren't interested in the series by this point. This in turn caused Ultraman Leo to have the lowest ratings of the franchise at the time, bringing an end to the Ultra series at that moment in time. It didn't help that the world suffered an oil crisis during the show's production that led to higher costs despite the low budgets.
Damn the budget!
Not to mention that Taro had to also be extended by a couple extra episodes because Leo fell behind in production. Makes you wonder, is Leo worthy of being the final Showa era series, at least initially? Let's take a look at the heroes to find out. The heroes. Our lead Ultraman took refuge on Earth after his home planet was destroyed, taking up the identity of a man named Gen Otori. Initially, Gen, played by Ryo Manatsu, kept his identity hidden from everyone around the world in order to maintain his life as a sports trainer. The alien who destroyed his homeworld attacks the Earth, injuring Ultra 7 in the process, which leads to Gen having to transform into Leo, revealing his true self to Dan. From there, Dan recruits Gen to be a part of the militaristic Earth defenders he commands, known as the Monster Attacking Crew, or MAC for short. Gen is not exactly the most thrilling protagonist, however, he's far from the worst. There are a couple of issues I have with Gen, the first being that he seems to only have two emotions, being pouty and having a forced fake smile on his face when he's not being pouty. Nah. That's just his regular face. The second issue is that Gen is a freaking moron. He loves to rush into battle without any prior planning, regardless of what his orders are, only to get his ass whooped on, and then cries about it like a little bitch. The worst part about it is it requires the show to turn Dan Moriboshi into the most unlikable piece of shit imaginable. I have no idea what the writers were thinking, but they completely character assassinated Dan here. And that is all Dan is good for by this point. He will constantly belittle Gen for his screw-ups, forcing him into some half-assed training session until he can figure out a solution into solving their little Monster of the Week issue, and then give him a half-hearted praise until the next time it happens. This process is repeated throughout the first third of the show without a care for how it makes Dan look to the viewers. As if Dan being a jackass isn't enough, the rest of the MAC members are completely irrelevant to the show. Some die quite early on, while others just up and disappear and are replaced later on without any rhyme or reason for it. There's even a few episodes where Dan and Gen are the only members shown from MAC, making you wonder if everyone else got sick of Dan's dickery and quit. They can give Tak from Ace a run for their money and ineptitude. The only notable thing I have to say about Mac is terror of Mechagodzilla's Tomoko Ai started her career in Leo as one of the female Mac members.
驚かないでくださいね。あの人、かすり傷一つないんですってよ。
なんだって？
まもなく精密検査が全部終わるんですけどね。今のところ体のどこにも全く異常がないんですって。
And for some reason, their main source of transportation makes me think of a Tide laundry detergent package. In fact, Mac is so useless that in the last quarter of the show, an event occurs that sees Gen leaving Mac and no one ever even mentions him being a part of them. That's how utterly useless they were. There are a few other characters related to Gen whose significance really varies upon what part of the show you are watching. There is his co-worker and love interest, Momoko Yamaguchi.
僕が宇宙人だとしたら、君どうする？
大鳥さんが私平気よ。私のことを愛してくれているのなら、たとえ悪い宇宙人でも平気だわ。
Unlike with Go and Aki, their relationship goes nowhere, so don't expect much in the way of relevance either. There's his best friend, who is also his co-worker named Takeshi Nomura.
トル君、飛べるまでやるんだ。さつき！
Their boss, who just ups and disappears halfway through, Shoji Omura.
大村さん。おお、大鳥君か。君こうセンターで顔出さないじゃないか。なぜこんなところにいるんですか。これだよ。パチンコだよ。
He's an idiot.
And two students whose father is killed in the third episode that are first adopted by a Mac member until he too is murdered 30 seconds later, only to end up living with Momoko, named Toru and Karu Umeda.
なんて僕の体で一発さ。嘘ばっかし。お兄ちゃん一番先に逃げるくせに。言ったな。あ、ヘビー。助けて！助けて！
It is worth mentioning that Karu is played by Mina Tominaga, who would continue her career as a voice actress and voice the likes of Buska in Ultraman Rube, Yahiko in Rurouni Kenshin, Rain in Fist of the North Star, Izumi in Patlabor, among several others. The death of his father does mess Toru up quite a bit, regardless of Gen and Momoko's attempts to treat him like their own. As a matter of fact, the kid sings a pretty messed up song at one point.
でも曇って泣いてたらお前のその首ちょんと切るぞ。
What kind of song is that? In the last quarter of the show, Gen just out of the blue moves in with the Miyama family, which entails a nurse who Gen apparently knew beforehand, even though we, the audience, were never properly introduced to her and her two children, Ayumi and Izumi.
ご飯ですよ。はい。大鳥さん、早く行かないとまた大目玉だよ。
そっか。よし行こう。
おはようございます。ちょっとあんたたち。うちの階段壊すつもりじゃないでしょうね。
Like with Mac, they're pretty much useless outside of being there as damsels in distress or moral support when necessary. While I don't particularly dislike the Miyama family, they feel arbitrary and tacked on at the last second as if they were an unplanned plot device. Next up is Leo's brother Astra. A third of the way through the series, Gen suddenly brings up that he has a younger brother who he thought he lost in the devastation of his homeworld. It turns out that was not the case, and Astra occasionally swoops in to save the day as if he is Tuxedo Mask, and then just leaves. He has no character development whatsoever. We have no idea why or how he knows Leo is in trouble. He just shows up and that is that. Wow, at least he had more screen time than Sevenger.
帰ってきたウルトラマンがウルトラの国からはるばる届けてくれた怪獣あと10秒時間があればアシュランをやっつけることができたのにね。この怪獣ボールの中のセブンガーは1分間しか戦うことができないんだよ。
And now let's never talk about him again. At least until Zet. Boy, was he useless. The original Ultraman, Zophi, Jack, and Ace also briefly make their presence known. The last Ultra character to debut in the show is Ultraman King, who does stuff to save the day and and that's about it. He gives Leo a bicep bracelet that allows him to use his cape whenever he needs to bullshit an enemy.
レオは第二の故郷地球で正義のために若い命を懸けている。そんなレオ、今ウルトラマンキングは天下の宝刀とも言うべきウルトラマントを与えたのである。
While on the subject of Leo, I do want to mention that I am a bit ambivalent as far as his design is concerned. I like his head design, specifically the 3 horns, giving it a crown-like feature, while the rest of the body from the chest down is quite bland. The monsters and aliens. Except for the alien who ravaged Leo's homeworld and shows up for 3 episodes, this is your typical Ultra series as far as the monsters and aliens are concerned. A monster alien shows up, Leo beats them, the end. For the most part, I didn't find most of these monsters and aliens to be all that special, yet there are a few remarkable ones. The first big bad to talk about is Alien Magma. Just don't expect anything grandiose from him. He may show up for 3 episodes, but nothing ever actually happens to him. A few of my favorite other monsters include a werewolf beast, who, for some reason, Leo fights during the daytime, even though the rest of the episode has the werewolf showing up at night. A vampire one. Leo's childhood pet. This demonic looking creature that makes me think of something from the Inhumanoids. A fish monster. A pair of brutes whose names are Gallon and Leader. A creature who tries to kidnap Karu by pretending to be her mother. And probably the best beast in the entire show, Akamania. Oh, and Alien Barbaro is introduced in Leo. For the last quarter of the show, an alien comes to Earth with the intent on killing Leo, and after his introductory episode, he becomes nothing more than a joke as he accomplishes absolutely nothing for the remainder of the series and ends up getting beat up by a bunch of children. It's as embarrassing as it is sad. He does bring forth a couple of interesting monsters known as saucer creatures, with my favorite being an octopus-like creature called Deimos. Oh no! He was 3 days away from retirement. He had a whole family of grandkids to feed. All the humanity! There is another cool monster named Nova, though I'm unsure as to whether or not I actually like him due to the way he is portrayed in his episode, or if it is because he was featured in my favorite episode of Orb. While I can't say I am blown away by the vast majority of monsters and aliens in this show, mainly ones that pee themselves as seen here, look ridiculously dumb or have dumb moments, it is nice to see a lot of them have no qualms about killing people relentlessly. It's a nice change of pace from the norm, even if sometimes it feels pretentious or over the top as if it was done for nothing more than shock value. I'd say most of the time it really was done for shock value. The effects and music. The effects and music are not exactly Leo's strong point. Well, the music itself is pretty much just a bunch of recycled tracks from Toru Fuyuki's previous compositions. Makoto Kawaguchi does help provide some new pieces of music. My biggest issue is that the new tracks are hardly noticeable, as only a few of them stood out. And even now, I'm not exactly 100% sure they are not carried over from the likes of Taro, Ace, and Return. I don't believe they are, but that hasn't stopped me from being wrong before, no matter how much information I try to dig up. Even the sound effects rehash those heard before. Hell, there's a roar that is used for several different monsters, which did come off as kind of lazy at times. There are two opening songs, with the first one, Ultraman Leo, sung by Leo's actor Ryu Manatsu. The second opening by Hideyuki is Tatake Ultraman Leo. To be quite honest, I didn't even realize the opening themes had changed until it was pointed out to me. So that shows you how much I cared about either one of them. They just sound no different than any of the other opening themes prior to them. So I think I've grown tired of them. They're not necessarily bad by any means, just nothing that blows me away. The visual effects are effective, even if they aren't exactly stellar. Miniatures look solid for the most part, while the overlay work is as praiseworthy as always. We do get a few battles with good atmosphere thanks to the use of rain effects. I also enjoyed the number of fights that took place at night. Not to mention the fight choreography is an improvement, given they went for a more martial arts style with Leo's attacks due to Gen's job as a trainer. There are also obviously more gore effects compared to Leo's predecessor, thanks to people being killed left and right. Overall, I've got no complaints in the visual department, except for the fake spaghetti moment. Oh my god. What were you guys thinking? Why did you not use real spaghetti? Was there some sort of spaghetti shortage going on at the time? Maybe it was actually olive oil that was having a crisis and not regular oil? The camera work isn't too bad either.
どこへ行くんだ桃子さんか切り物に聞こえどうしたそれは練習を続けるんだ
The episodes. While there were a lot of solid episodes for Leo, it's as formulaic as it can get. Like, oh my god, did that get frustrating at times. For the first third, the show pretty much follows the formula of a monster or alien attacks, Leo gets his butt whooped by said enemy, Dan belittles Gen for his failures, Gen trains to beat the adversary and does exactly that with only mere seconds to spare before everything is destroyed, and then Dan praises Gen for a good job. For a little while, the formula takes a slight break until Commander Black debuts, and then it pretty much becomes Saucer Creature that was summoned at the end of the last episode arrives. It turns small, someone finds it thinking it is something else, it grows big, Leo kills it, and then Commander Black summons his next saucer creature. Rinse and repeat this ordeal continuously, and you have the makings of a pretty dull experience. Fortunately, there is at least enough variety in the stories themselves to keep you entertained even if the formula grows tiresome. Episode 17 kicks off a 5-part serial deemed the Ultra Horror series, which features 5 individual stories that have a horror feel to them. This is where we get the wolf, sea, and vampire monsters I mentioned earlier. Then in the late 20s and early 30s, there is a 7-piece serial called the Folklore series, which follows a bunch of tales based on Japanese folklore. We get one on Momotaro because every series has to adapt that tale for some reason. I'm not saying the story of Momotaro is bad, I'm just so bored with seeing it adapted by everyone. And people wonder why children become mass murdering psychopaths. One episode also adapts the Princess Kaguya story, another follows Crane's Return of a Favor, which is kind of like the American story when a mouse removes a thorn from a lion's foot. And so forth. These serialized concepts is when the show is at its best, at least for the most part. It's still a bit hard to watch Dan demean Gen in some of these, and for the dumbest reasons ever. I get that you're mad because the monster got away, but it's not exactly his fault. Where was the rest of your crew? Why aren't you yelling at them? My favorite episode of the series goes to the one titled The Woman Who Faded into the Night. At the start of the episode, we come to learn that there are strange noises coming from a greenhouse, causing people to assume it's haunted. Toru and a friend investigate and find themselves under attack of an estranged woman who turns a neighbor into a wax statue. The woman goes on a rampage, killing many before she is confronted by Gen. Interestingly enough, despite its atmosphere, suspense, tension, and being very much an episode revolving around horror, it is not part of the Ultra Horror series even though it is the episode that precedes that serial. I'm not sure why they didn't make it part of the horror series as it should have been one. Either way, this was the first episode of the show I truly loved immensely and ended up being the best episode even though there were a few other possible contenders. Now is the time I obviously tell you about my least favorite episode. But I want to point out that I don't exactly hate this episode for being goddamn awful, because even though it's not exactly good, it's not like it's detrimentally bad either. It does have some good visuals to it that make it partially enjoyable. Nevertheless, the main reason I consider The Bridge of Friendship Across Space to be the worst episode is because of an ability Leo pulls out of his ass. First off, the episode features Gen and Momoko taking Toru and Kaoru to an amusement park where Toru ends up befriending an alien creature.
僕トール。君の名前は？ヒロか。君そんなにアイスクリーム好きなの？
Everyone assumes the alien means to do Toru harm and attacks it, which concludes with Leo killing it, naturally. However, Toru is in such distress from the alien's death that Leo ends up having to use an ability to resurrect it, which he does. Now, you might be asking why that is an issue when many Ultras have pulled up a convenient power before to fit with the plot of an episode, and you are right. It has happened before. Still, at this point in the series, Toru's dad was murdered, the MAC officer who was going to adopt Toru and Kaoru was killed, the girlfriend to a different MAC officer was slain by a monster, and then there are all of the people who are massacred throughout the remainder of the show that Leo blatantly chooses not to bring back from the dead when he clearly has the capability to do so. What the hell? If I was Toru, I would be looking at Leo like this. You can resurrect the dead? Oh, hell no! It wouldn't be the first time the show features some continuity issues either. At one point there was an episode where Gen had to learn how to fight without the use of his eyes, only for several episodes later to have a monster blind him and he is completely inept at handling the situation. It just doesn't make any sense. The Blu-ray. You know what to expect at this point, right? You've got the regular edition in the slipcase. It has a regular case, booklet, discs and trays, steelbook, slip, steelbook with the discs stacked, and then the booklet again that has descriptions, episode guides, and all that good stuff. One thing I want to mention is do not read the descriptions for the characters until after you've watched the show or if you've already seen the show, because they give spoilers in this book, which was very, very annoying. I'm glad I've watched this show ahead of time because I would have been like, what? For the most part, the video is solid with only a few scenes here or there that come off a bit soft or blurry, which is most likely due to their source material. Episodes 3 and 4, on the other hand, is shaky as hell, which made them hard to sit through. The audio is clear and concise, as I don't recall experiencing any dropouts or moments of inaudible dialogue due to noise. As for the subtitles, they're adequate, yet far from being the show's best. There are oddities in the translation, such as this scene here when a woman asks Izumi about Gen. Huh? That didn't exactly answer her question. Toru's name is also misspelled in a couple of episodes, having 2 O's instead of 1. We have an episode where the title is misspelled as Friendshop instead of Friendship. There are also a few instances when lines are mistimed, a name is wrong entirely, or they go by too quickly. If you have previously watched the series on Crunchyroll or Shout Factory's website, you already know what to expect from the subtitles, as they're pretty much the same. Overall, I enjoyed Leo a bit more this time around compared to last time when I first watched it, and I didn't hate it. It's nowhere near as bad as Ace, but also not as good as Taro. And Dan is a completely unlikable jackass. Still, it did have a lot of pretty solid fights and was entertaining for the most part. Thus, I'm going to give Ultraman Leo a well-deserved 3 out of 5 grown-ups in spandex. It also tries way too hard to be grim dark at times. It comes off more forced than shocking. Still, if you're a die-hard Ultraman fan, then watching Leo is going to be a no-brainer. On the other hand, if you're just a casual fan, then you're not going to miss out on much if you skip Leo. Until next time, bye!
He's an idiot.